So, have you ever been in that situation where you're speaking to someone who's calm and present, but it doesn't really feel like they understand what you're talking about? Like they might be there, but you don't feel heard. Or maybe you're someone who meditates quite a lot, but you don't feel like you can connect to those people around you, to the people that you want to connect to. Maybe you don't have too many friends, or maybe you don't feel like you can communicate with people in a way that makes you feel close, that makes you feel happy, that makes you feel understood. Being present and being self-aware doesn't actually lead to good communication skills. And communication is basically the ability to understand other people and to be understood yourself. It's to relay the thoughts, the insights, the feelings, the ideas that you have to another person, and to similarly be able to understand what someone else is saying, to kind of read between the lines and speak in a way which makes the other person feel understood. This is what communication is. And meditation and self-awareness and all of this introspection doesn't actually improve this skill in a fundamental way. There's some correlation of being a good listener and being present, but in the same way meditation and self-awareness doesn't make you an expert at physics, it doesn't make you an expert at communication. This is kind of a skill that you need to develop individually. And in this video, I'm going to basically cover a little bit about what I've learned about communication and how it kind of helps, or how you can kind of understand communication as an idea, as a thing to learn, and as a skill that you can spend time developing. So imagine answering a call and there's a complete stranger on the other side. This complete stranger has a problem that you might be able to fix, but they don't know you and you don't know them. So they're very guarded. They're in basically a state of defense. How would you get this person on the other side to gain some trust in you and to actually share their problem with you? So this was kind of my reality for the last year, or even a year and a half, as I was doing cold calling. And if you don't know what cold calling is, it's basically just calling up people that might actually have a problem that you solve. So they have maybe a problem in business, etc. And it's basically getting this random stranger to give you a chance to basically speak to them and to potentially help solve that business problem or that life problem, whatever it may be. And this is a really interesting thing. And this is the world of sales. And you learn so much about communication when you live the world of sales. And you might have some negative connotations about what sales is and how it actually works. But fundamentally, sales is basically highlighting the problem that someone has and providing a solution for it. It's being able to understand someone's problem, understand the thing that's stopping someone from changing, and to be able to make that person feel understood and to actually see if you can help them. Like the way you see salespeople might be in a way where, oh, they're just trying to sell something, they're trying to push something on someone. But sales, when done right, is a situation where you kind of can say no to someone as well, where if they don't have a problem that you fix, you kind of end the conversation and you move on. But anyways, the reason I'm telling you all of this is because sales and communication are pretty much just hand in hand. They're the same thing. You are always doing sales in your day-to-day life. You're always negotiating with people. You're always trying to understand them. And sometimes you're even trying to help them and to solve their problem. And to be able to do all of these things effectively and in a way that kind of benefits the person in front of you the most, you need to understand how to communicate. In the world of sales, if you're not asking questions or digging or clarifying things that people are saying, you essentially get nowhere. There's no way for you to find out what the other person is thinking if you're not asking questions and if you're not curious. And this is a fundamental part of communication that I see a lot of people lack, especially kind of in the spiritual community, where people are meditating, they're introspective, but they kind of lack this outward focus of kind of asking questions and being interested. There's a lot of silence, but there's just less connection with ideas and thoughts. You can share silence with someone, and you might argue that that is true connection. However, being able to understand someone's mind is also really important, not just for connection, but for your professional life as well. Like, you won't get anywhere in life, essentially, if you don't understand what the other person is thinking, if you don't know how to ask questions, when to ask questions, and when to clarify. And it's something I've noticed, especially with spiritual teachers that I've watched on YouTube and just other places. A lot of them kind of fail to ask questions, like the really good ones do. But there's a lot of assumptions being made. You just kind of assume that you know, or they kind of assume that they know what the other person is talking about. And this is kind of a problem, and it's a problem that in a way that you might not expect. Where, when you're learning something, or when you're kind of engaging in some sort of material, you get this aha moment where everything just kind of clicks and you suddenly see the material in a different way. And so when you don't ask questions, and when you're teaching someone something and you're not asking questions, they're way less likely to have this aha moment. So when a spiritual teacher, or just anyone for that matter, is teaching you something, they need to ask questions. And what questions do is it restructures the information in your mind and what the teacher knows in a way that becomes relevant to you, to your very experience. And that's what aha moment is. It's when all the things that have kind of been accumulating in your mind, all of the knowledge, suddenly meshes and clicks in a way that actually makes sense to you. Everybody has aha moments with different things and in different times, at different situations. And that's because everybody knows different things, always. And so when you're a teacher, you need to kind of be able to ask these questions in a way that makes it relevant for the person. And this is where true transformation is made. So let's say I ask a question, for example, like, how do I find myself like as the meditator? What an unskilled teacher would do in this situation is they would just start rambling. They would just start rambling. They would be like, this is how you find the meditator. This is what you do. This is all the things that I know, basically. And lecturing is not teaching. There's a very key distinction that is really important to know. And so what you would do in that situation is first you would ask a clarifying question. What do you mean by finding the meditator? And this is how understanding, learning, and connection is formed, by asking questions that are relevant to the person. When people feel understood, it's when you ask questions and when you really get to the bottom of what they're thinking. And this is the stuff that I kind of learned from sales. And since I've learned this stuff, honestly, it's transformed my interpersonal relationships like to a next level. Like, after I started implementing some of these ideas, and I'll get more into how specifically you can learn more about this stuff, but after I started implementing it, it wasn't uncommon that people that I was with and my friends and close family members said something along the lines of, nobody's ever, like, I've never had a conversation like this. Like, I feel so heard. And this is where my connection started to deepen, when I started understanding how I can use my words in a way that just kind of brings people together rather than kind of bringing them apart. Because usually there's a lot of disconnect. You say something, someone understands something else, and bridging this gap is understanding the fundamentals of communication. It's like being a compassionate mirror. You're existing as space for the other person, and it links into spirituality in a very interesting way as well, where you kind of reflect back what the other person is saying. You're there for them. You're basically there so that they can understand themselves. And to do that, you need to listen. You need to ask a lot of questions. And you need to use mirrors and labels. And you're probably wondering, what the heck is a mirror and a label? But essentially, a mirror is kind of like what you do is when somebody is speaking or they say something that's kind of unclear. So let me give an example. So they say something like, oh, like, I've been feeling really angry recently. And then a mirror is something simple, like you just say angry, like with like an upward inflection. And then that person expands on this idea of what they're feeling angry about. And these are very simple things. Or a label, for example, where somebody's feeling a certain emotion, but it's the undertone of what they're saying. So they might say something along the lines of, I've been working really hard recently and I'm just not getting any results. And then you can say something like, you sound frustrated. And like, obviously these sound very unnatural, just speaking to the camera randomly. But essentially, there's lots of these small little techniques that improve your communication skills that allow the other person to feel heard. And if you want to understand more about how to develop these communication skills, I would highly suggest you check out this book by this FBI negotiator called Chris Voss. And the book is called Never Split the Difference. Essentially, what this book teaches you is all these different little insights that kind of recontextualize how communication is done in your mind. And it shows you like all the different things you could be doing, all the different things you currently are doing. And it allows you to recognize those patterns so you can improve these communication skills. But you might be asking, oh, I'm like a spiritual person. Why would I want to learn communication? I just want to sit in silence all day and basically just stare at a wall. And that's a very valid concern that you might have. But essentially, if you want to kind of be a functioning member of society, if you want a professional life, a life that kind of fulfills you materially and spiritually, you need to understand how to speak to people. Unless you're going to go live in the woods and basically not speak to anyone and not contribute to society in the traditional sense, you have to learn how to communicate with people. And once you understand these things, your professional life will improve drastically. I mean, it's one of the most cherished skills. The skill to be able to communicate is literally one of the most highly rewarded skills in society. If you can go and make someone feel understood, if you can have a conversation with someone and make them feel understood, no matter the circumstance, people will just pay you money for that alone. Like, people will just give you money because you're listening to them, because you're asking questions, because you're curious, because you understand how to open them up and how to have a connection with them. You're just like, material wealth and resources will they will just come to you kind of as a natural extension of your being. And look, I'm not the communication guru. I'm by no means perfect. I still have so much to learn about and so much to iterate on. And I just wanted to make this video to kind of share this insight, because I know it's something that a lot of spiritual people kind of struggle with. And I've noticed a lot of people, especially people who introspect quite a lot, feel quite reserved and feel quite to themselves. And they don't really know how to connect with other people. And if you start implementing these communication skills, your personal relationships will also get much richer. And I feel like it's super valuable to my spiritual people out there. And yeah, it's a road that you kind of take step by step. And if you have any questions about how to improve your communication past reading that book and kind of studying it, you can just feel free to ask them in the comment section below, and I'll try to give as much advice as I can. And like I said, I'm still a novice to communication. Like, there's people out there that once you understand how communication works, it's even more impressive when you see what they're doing. And I want to kind of dispel a myth as well before I end the video. There's some people that are kind of good at communication, but real communication isn't something you're born with. Like, I promise you, there's no thing as a natural salesperson. This is a very real skill that you need to spend time developing. And it's something that has just like I said, just immense benefits to your life in general. But yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope you enjoyed and I hope you gained some insight into the world of communication and why it's actually important as someone who might be spiritual or meditative. But yeah, thanks and take care.